Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to my child guide. So I've gotten so many requests for this in comments on my Twitch stream, all that stuff, and I made a poll asking you guys what you want to see. Boom, most of you said you want to see a child guide or all of the above, so this is what I'm doing. And the main reason I'm doing this, guys, is because there's an artifact set that like everyone is overlooking. All the content creators, all the streamers that I've watched aren't using the set, and we ran the numbers, we tested it. It is the best set for DPS on child. You just need to build a comp around it, or at least have one other party member that can support you, which is 100% doable because that's what support characters are meant to do in this game. This is going to be a very detailed guide. So I have a lot of experience with child. I'm going to talk to you guys about best party setups, best weapons, if you're free to play or pay to win, whatever. And we're also going to talk about, obviously, artifacts. That's what we're going to start with. Yeah, for artifacts, we're going to talk about the early game ones, and we're going to go late game ones, and then we're going to talk about the best one. If that's all you guys care about, you guys can just skip on the YouTube time bar to there. But before we start, I want to tell you guys that, first of all, thanks for all the support. Second, I will be streaming on Twitch pretty often, so if you guys want to catch me around, link is in the description. Without further ado, guys, let's get right into this guide and talk about how to build this very misunderstood character. Alright, so now let's talk about artifacts. So we're going to start with some early game artifacts you can go with. In the early game, the main thing that matters are your stats and substats over, especially main stats, but more so that than the sets. So something like a Berserker is really nice, a 2-piece, you can get some nice crit rate. Another pretty good set for the early game is the Braveheart set if you do get it. Although I'm pretty sure you can only get this from domains or something. But if you do get it, it is pretty good. Attack percent is nice. And the damage by 30% is really nice. The only problem with this set is that it can only get up to 4-star. You can't get a 5-star set of this. That's why it's only good for the early game in my opinion. Same thing with like the Martial Artist, which could be pretty good. The first thing I want to talk about is the Gambler set. Now, I don't think this is the best artifact set, but it definitely has a lot of potential. Now, the main reason why this isn't the best is because you can't get a 5-star artifact set of this. As you can see, it can only go up to 4-star. That's a big problem because like between 4 and 5 stars, you lose a lot of stats. Now, 4-piece is great. This is an amazing 4-piece, but you can't get a 5-star, as I said, 5-star 4-piece of the set. So you could test it out. You could run it if you're low on 4-star artifacts. Let's say you're under AR40 or even under AR45. This could be amazing, but I don't know how I feel about this in the later game because I would prioritize 5-star artifact sets over 4-star, especially for the 4-piece set. Okay, now we're going to talk about the best artifact set. So first of all, the 2-piece Glad is really good, but the 4-piece obviously doesn't work on child. 2-piece Glad set could be good when you use it with other sets, notably the Noblesse Oblige set, because the 2-piece of the set is insane on child. It increases your elemental burst damage by 20%, and your elemental burst has a pretty low cooldown if you're using it in the range. Like when you use it in the range form, you get more energy particles, I'm pretty sure, so you get to charge it pretty fast. But either way, the scaling on this is insane. It's like over 700%. It's great. So Noblesse set 2-piece is amazing, and you can get it in 5-star. And what you want to pair with this is either the 2-piece of the Gladiator, which is 18%, or the 2-piece of the Wanderer, which is 80 elemental mastery, the Wanderer's troop set. Now what this set does is if you're using a bow, so if you're a bow user like child is, your charge attack damage is increased by 35%. Now that works on charge shots, and you get the 2-piece set of elemental mastery, but for the 4-piece, that 35% works on charge shots, but it also works on your charge attack in your E form. So when you're in your melee stance and you're doing like, let's say, one normal attack and then one charge attack, like you do with Kaching a lot, it's a very common DPS strategy on child and Kaching. If you do like that normal attack and then charge attack, your charge attack will have 35% more damage, so you can be spamming that often, and that can be very good, especially against large clumps of enemies. You could do some big AoE numbers. Alright, so now we're going to talk about the best set, and honestly probably why you guys clicked on the video. So we're going to talk about the Retracing Bolide set. Now this is a set that nobody talks about. No YouTube videos, no streamers, no nothing have talked about this from what I've seen. Like maybe I missed something, but like every video that I checked wouldn't mention this set, and so when I tell you guys that I'm showing you the best child build, I'm not lying. Now let's talk about this. When you're protected by a shield, you gain 40% normal and charge attack damage. So obviously this works when you're in your melee stance or your range stance. And the reason why this is so good is because, first of all, 40 damage is insane. 40% is insane. And second, there isn't like a Hydro set for child. Now, when you compare this to like Crimson Witch of Flames on Diluc, this is better. But since child doesn't have the equivalent of the set in Hydro, you have to run with another set, and that's why you'll see me sometimes run Noblesse, you'll see me sometimes run Wanderers. But recently, I discovered this Retracing Bolide set, and I've been testing it, and it's just so good, guys. It is literally the best set on him, like, by a decent amount, as long as you're running a shield. Basically how this works is you gain 40% normal and charge attack damage, so all your attacks are going to be doing 40% more damage as long as you have that shield active, and if you manage your shield well, as long as you know what you're doing, you can keep that shield uptime You can keep it up for basically the entire duration of your E, and when it's up, you can swap out of Childe, use your support characters, and then go back and you'll have the shield. And just to compare this to other sets, the Wanderer's Troop gives you only 35%, and it's only to your charge attacks, whereas this one is 40. Sorry, I keep clicking the wrong one. 40 to all of them. So I might make a separate video just on showing how to use this set and all like the intricacies and whatever, but for now, just know that the way you should use this is you shield on Noelle, that lasts I think 15 seconds, and then you can just attack with Childe and stuff. And you can also, when you use the shield on Noelle, it'll proc crystallize, and then that crystal will stay on the floor for roughly 10 to 15 seconds. And then when this shield's about to wear off, you can pick up the crystal from crystallize, and then that'll give you another shield. So you can have your shield uptime for almost 30 seconds. It'll be like 27 or something. And then when that's over, you know that your damage buff is up, so you can use that time to swap your support characters. You can go Bennett, you can go Chi-Chi, use your secondary DPS, and all that stuff that we're going to talk about in the party setup section, which is coming up shortly. Alright, so now we're going to talk about the specific stats you want on your artifacts. Now, please excuse my artifacts right now. I'm currently farming the Bolide set. My Bolide set is pretty bad, so I would just put different artifacts on so you guys could see the right stats. So, in terms of circuit, you want either crit rate or crit damage. Usually crit rate is better, but a quick way to test this is you want to multiply your crit rate by crit damage, and then whichever's higher is better. But basically, general rule of thumb, you want about 50% crit rate, so try to maximize that. And then for your goblet, you want hydro damage. That's imperative. You got to make sure you have hydro damage. It's just so much better than any other goblet because all of your damage on Childe is going to be hydro, because when you press E, obviously, use your elemental skill, you go into your melee stance, and all your damage is hydro. For goblet, you want attack percent with good substats, and the substats, the best ones are crit rate and crit damage, and then it goes to attack percent and energy recharge, and elemental mastery is okay too. For your feather, obviously you're going to have base attack, but once again, it's all about substats, and same thing with the flower. It's all about the substats. Crit damage is nice, attack percent is nice, and so on and so forth. Now, I'm just doing this without talking about artifact sets because we've already been over that. That's why I'm just showing you guys some of my artifacts that do have the good stats on them. Alright guys, so now we're going to talk about weapons, and we're going to start with the free-to-play weapons. Then we're going to move on to the 4 stars, talk about the best and all that, talk about the 5 stars, then we're going to recap and tell you guys what the best weapons are for every type of player, pay to win, free-to-play, all that. So we're going to talk about the free-to-play weapons really quick. The Raven Bow is probably the best 3-star weapon because it increases your hydro damage percent, and the others aren't that great. The Slingshot would be good, however, the effect just does not work with your E. So when you E in your melee stance doing those normal attacks, this bonus does not apply. I've tested it like 10 times, it doesn't work, which sucks. So your better option is, if you're like low budget player, let's say you bought the Battle Pass, obviously Viridescent Hunt is amazing. This is what I would recommend. But if you are a free-to-play player or you just use another Battle Pass weapon or whatever, the Blacksmith does have a pretty good option. So if we look, there are 2. There's the Prototype Crescent and the Compound Bow. Now, the Compound Bow gives you physical damage bonus, which you don't like, and the effect is okay. But the Prototype Crescent is much better because it gives you attack percent, which is really nice on Childe since all your damage is hydro, which is why the physical damage on the Compound Bow isn't good. But on top of that, the effect is really nice because once you do an aim shot on a weak point, so you crit, right, you get a headshot, your attack is increased for 10 seconds. And that's a pretty big amount, 36% refinement 1, and you can refine this for free just by getting more of these prototypes. And so what this does is it'll increase your attack, and then it'll also apply Riptide, because when you do this aim shot on a weak point, it'll apply Riptide on an enemy, and then you can deal more damage because the enemy is afflicted by Riptide, which is just super OP on Childe. So you can do that aim shot, get attack percent, and Riptide, which is why I think Prototype Crescent is the best free-to-play / craftable bow. In terms of 4-star bows, Rust and Viridescent Hunt are the 2 best ones. So let's start with Rust. Rust is amazing. It gives you attack percent as a substat, which is pretty good. And then the effect will give you 40% damage at refinement 1, -2. But at 1, it gives you 40% normal attack damage, which is amazing because it works when your E is active. So when you are in your elemental skill, when you're doing in your melee stance, this effect does work. Your normal attack damage will be increased, and it's just amazing on Childe. But since this does increase your normal attack so much, it makes your charge attack a bit worse in comparison. And if you're running this with a 4-piece of the Wanderer set, it might be kind of weird because you don't want to charge attack too much, but at the same time your set buffs charge attack. So I think Rust and the Wanderer set kind of clash a bit. So I think Rust is amazing, and you can get it now. It's right up on the banner, so if you want it, you should probably pull for it. Now we'll talk about the Battle Pass weapon. So the Battle Pass weapon is amazing. I really, really like this weapon. I made a video on it, reviewing it. You guys can check that if you want. And what it does is it increases, the secondary stat is crit rate, which is probably the best secondary stat in the game. You get crit rate on that, that's amazing. That means you can build more crit damage in your artifacts. And then the effect does proc when you're in your melee stance. So what it does is it'll create a mini cyclone that keeps attracting enemies to each other. It's like a mini venti ult kind of, and it does work on your E. So when you're in your melee stance and you're attacking, this can proc, and it's just a great bow. Stats are good, effects good. I really like it. So now we're going to talk about all the other 4-star bows. I have a list open. I'll go over them one by one. So for the Favonius Warbow, this is just bad because you don't want... Energy recharge isn't that important on Child. It's not bad, it's just not that good. And then the effect just gives you more energy particles. Elemental particles isn't great. Sacrificial Bow sadly does not work on Child. I repeat, it doesn't work. It only works with your... Basically when you press E and you use your elemental skill, the only thing it can reset is like you switching back to bow form, but it doesn't reset your E cooldown. So if you use your E all the way and it's like 40-second cooldown or whatever, it won't be reset. For the weapons I don't have, we're going to use Genshin.gg. So for the two pay-to-win bows, if you will, the ones that you can buy in the Star Glitter shop, there's the Royal Bow and there's the other one, the Blackcliff Warbow. They're both pretty good, but they are pay-to-win. I would say the Blackcliff Warbow is much better than the Royal Bow, however, because it gives you crit damage, and the effect is pretty nice, but the crit damage subset is the best part of this bow. However, do note that you are spending Star Glitter buying this, so if you are a low budget player or something and you don't have too much Star Glitter, you might want to wait before you spend it. In terms of the stringless, the way this works is the increased elemental skill damage only works on the initial hit of your E, which is not very minimal, so it doesn't work during your entire E. During your elemental skill, you will not get that bonus. So it's not that great of a weapon. It's just not bad because it does increase your elemental burst damage by 24%, and as we all know, Child's elemental burst is broken. It does so much damage, so this bow isn't bad. It's what I use when I want a really big number on my hit. Oh, and something to note with stringless is that it does buff your Riptide damage, which is a nice addition. So it's definitely a pretty decent bow. Okay, now we're going to talk about the two 5-star bows. Unfortunately, I don't have any of these, so I can't show you my game. We're going to use Genshin again, .gg again. So the Skyward Harp is the best bow in the game for Child. It's just amazing. Like Rust and Viridescent Hunt are both kind of close, but a 5-star bow just has more attack and all that stuff, so it's amazing. Secondary stat is crit rate, which is the best. And it increases your crit damage as well, so very, very good weapon. So yeah, it gives you crit damage and crit rate, and then on top of that, the effect gives you some damage. Sure, it's physical damage, but whatever, it's just a bonus. You're mainly using it for the 5-star, like the fact that it's a 5-star, has crit rate, and has crit damage. The other 5-star bow is a lot worse than the Harp. It's the Amos bow. Basically, the only good part about this is that it has a high base attack, and it increases your normal attack and aim shot damage by 12% at a refinement 1. So the normal attack damage percent increase will work on your E and is good, but apart from that, it's not that great. Increases damage from arrow shot by a distance will honestly very rarely affect you as Child. Like, it might affect one charge shot that you're doing to apply Riptide, but apart from that, it doesn't work during your elemental skill. I just don't like Amos bow too much on him. However, it is still a 5-star, so you have that high base attack. It's not bad. It's just not amazing. Alright, so overall, guys, just a quick recap. The two 5-star bows are pretty good. The Skyward Harp is the best. It's probably the best weapon. Well, it is the best weapon on Child. And then after that, Rust is an amazing 4-star weapon. The best one that you can get from Gacha. It's right up right now, so get it while it's hot if you can. And then in terms of the Battle Pass weapon, this is amazing. It is very close to Rust. So if you want to choose a good Battle Pass weapon, this can be the one. And I made a video on it. And then lastly, if you're a free-to-play player and you want a blacksmith weapon, the Prototype Crescent is the way to go. Alright, so now let's talk about party setup. So the way you build a team around Child is unique and very different from other characters, but I'm going to try to do this as fast as possible while also being as comprehensive as possible because there's a lot to cover and I want to make sure I answer all of your guys' questions because I get a lot of them in the comments and in my Twitch stream and all that. So I'm going to try to clear everything up. Before we start, you guys have to know something. There are two big things about Child that make him different from every other character in terms of building a party. So number one, since Child's E's cooldown is so long, like at Constellation 1, I mean, or Constellation 0, which most of us are, your cooldown is going to be like up to 40 seconds when you use it all the way. And then because of that, you're going to need another character to do some DPS. You're going to need a secondary DPS, or at least a support that can deal a significant amount of damage when your Child has downtime, when you can't use his E, when you can't be dealing tons of Hydra damage. So we're going to split the team comp guide into two. The first part is going to be a more traditional one, just for Child in general, whatever set you're running on him, Noblesse, Wanderers, whatever. And then the second part is going to be the more advanced one if you're running the Bolide set. So if you are running that Bolide set, you're going to need a shield user and you're going to need a specific, like a team comp that works with the set, a team comp that supports Child and that provides them with at least one good shield. So let's get right into it. So one thing to note is that with Child, certain elemental reactions are really strong. For example, from what I've heard, they fixed Electrocharge this patch, so it's less buggy and a lot better, which means that Electrocharge is good with Child. Therefore, a Electro support can be a good idea, and I think the two best Electro supports in the game are Fischl and Baidu, especially C1 or higher Baidu. Personally, I haven't used her much, but from what I've seen, from what I've tested, from what I've been told, Baidu does work very well with Childe because her ultimate will apply electro charge when you're using her with Childe very often, and it'll do a lot of damage. Fischl is another really good one, obviously an S tier support. Her Oz is just so good. It can be there on the field when your Fischl is swapped out, so I recommend her. I think she's really good with Childe. One of the problems with electro charge though is that sometimes it can knock enemies away, so they can be knocked out of Oz's range. However, Oz's range is pretty high, and if you're running the Viridescent Hunt, you can kind of trap enemies there next to Oz, and you'll just shred them. So yes, an electro support is a good choice for Childe. Another good option is a Pyro character, because you can proc Vaporize a lot. The best one, by far in my opinion, is Bennett. I love Bennett. You guys should know this by now. His ultimate will give you a bunch of damage and will heal you constantly. You can run high energy recharge on him to have his ultimate up a lot. Yeah, he's just really good. He can proc, he can apply Pyro to enemies. Let's say they're Hydro afflicted because you're using Childe. You swap to Bennett, you ult, you E, they're going to be Pyro. You swap back to Childe, you can ult, and that's a Vaporize for a lot of damage. So I really like Bennett. He's just an amazing character. That being said, you don't need Bennett. If you want to run a Pyro and you don't have Bennett, Zhangling can be pretty good. However, it does suck that her Gooba might be the one proccing Vaporize, so ideally you want Childe to proc Vaporize, but that's okay. You can also run Diluc if you want a secondary DPS. Another good character is Venti. An Anemo support is great with just about every comp, so like Sucrose, Venti, both amazing. Even Jean if you have her, I don't. And the main reason they're great is because, yeah, their talents let you clump up a bunch of enemies, and then Childe does a lot of AoE damage, especially with like Riptide proccing on his E, his ult, all that is AoE. And then the artifact set of Viridescent Venerer is just so good. Like, it'll increase the damage of Swirl and it'll decrease the elemental resistance of the enemies in the Swirl. It's just amazing. So I really like Anemo supports. Can run more of a secondary DPS. Chi-Chi could be really good if you stack attack percent on her. She can heal and deal damage. Someone like a Diluc instead of Bennett could also be really good. There are a lot of good options here, even a Kaching if you want to. And so there isn't really a wrong answer, but obviously some team costs are going to be stronger than others, right? I wouldn't recommend running an Amber with Childe, even though she can DPS. Now, if you're running the Bolide set, which I think is an amazing set, super underrated, one of the best sets in the game, I might actually make another video on it. But anyways, if you are running the Bolide set, which increases your damage when you're shielded, then you need to make sure your team comp has someone who has a shield. Now, the characters with shields are as follows. So there's Noelle. There's Baidu. Once she's C1, she gets a reinforced shield, so I wouldn't really use her as a shield until you have C1. So there's Noelle, there's C1 Baidu, and then there is also Ningguang, and there is Diona. So if you are running Bolide on Childe, you need at least one character with a shield. Noelle can be really nice because she can proc Crystallize, and since you can proc Crystallize, you can run the Petra set. I'll put it on screen. And if you can run the Petra set plus Bolide on your Childe, you can just dish out tons of damage, and it's really nice. And you can use your E for like a 15-second shield while you're on Childe, and then when that shield pops out, you can pick up, or a bit before it pops out, you can pick up the crystal from Crystallized and then get another shield. So a team comp with a shield could look something like this. You can obviously replace Venti with a ton of characters. You can run Chi-Chi if you want. You can run Sucrose. You can just do pretty much whatever you want. Even Jin-Q can be good with his ultimate that gives you a lot of damage. Something important you guys need to know is that if you're running a Geo support, or any of the Geo characters that are that you're using with the Bolide set, is you want Elemental Mastery on them so that it increases the strength of the Crystallized shield. So in order for the Bolide set to be effective, you need to be protected by a shield. And shields are pretty durable, like if you look at Noelle's E, or just the Crystallized shield. But in order to maximize it, you want Elemental Mastery on that. One last thing to note is that if you are running Crystallized and you are against something like a slime or something that uses the same element that they are, you gain more resistance. So let's say there's a Pyro Crystal that's made against like a Pyro Slime, you pick it up and you're more resistant to Pyro, so it's just really nice. Also, one of the biggest things with the Bolide set is that you can actually use the Petra set with it because you need shields anyways, and the Petra set is just amazing. I showed you guys it earlier, it's just so good. I know a lot of you guys may be thinking like, oh, I don't like a shield set, or shields are not that good or whatever, but honestly the meta of this game is really moving towards the shield meta, and Petra and Bolide are both so good, and Bolide is just the best set on Childe. There isn't really a debate. Like, other sets are good, but they just don't compare if you can get the effect off, which is pretty easy as long as you have like Noelle in your team, who is the best at giving you shields. Alright, so that about sums it up, guys. This video took so long to record and theory craft and test, because Childe is so unique that I had to test so many different weapons, artifact sets, party comps, all that. Now, that being said, it was fun, and I really hope it was informative, because I just wanted to make an end-all be-all Childe guide, because I saw so many people spreading not necessarily misinformation, but just builds that aren't optimal and that could be improved, and that's why I'm here. I'm trying to push the meta forward. And if you guys have any questions, any comments, please, I read them all, so just let me know. I usually don't really ask for likes, but if you enjoyed it, you know, obviously just click it. because it does help out the algorithm and all that. But anyways, that doesn't matter. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm gonna be streaming on Twitch tonight and most nights, so just, you know, follow me if you want. Yeah, that's about it, guys. I really hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you want to. If not, that's okay too. And that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.